I'd like to begin the Township of Hamilton regular committee meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Please rise for the flag salute. Bobby, would you like to lead us off?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with justice for all.
justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and the Star Ledger on January the 11th, 2021. Adequate notice of in-person attendance and live streaming with calling capability was provided by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and the Star Ledger on December the 16th, 2020. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mrs. Link?
Present.
Mr. Vitale?
Here.
Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Mayor Kane?
Here. Next, can we have a moment of silence for private reflection? Okay, we'll move on to guest presentations. We have none. Addition and deletion of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight. We have 3B, addition, discussing proposed amendment to Township redevelopment plan for block 132.01, lot 16. Ordinance adopting an amendment to the Township-wide redevelopment plan for block 1132.01 in the Township of Hamilton will be ordinance number 1945-2021 with a public hearing set for February 16th, 2021 if introduced. 2, resolution authorizing the Hamilton Planning Board to review a proposed amendment to the redevelopment plan for the entirety of the Township of Hamilton, a designated rehabilitation area with respect to property identified as block 1132.01, lot 16 on the map of the Township of Hamilton. 3C, discussion, Green Team, and 8C, Mayor's Planning Board appointments.
So moved.
Second.
A motion? Yes.
I thought there was an item for the VFW on there.
Coin drop policy?
Yeah.
3A.
3A. Yes. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Ayes have it. Next, we'll open it up for early public comment on agenda items, excluding items listed for public hearings. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak?
Move to close.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll make a motion to close early public comment.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Ayes have it. Number 3, discussion, formal action may be taken. A, coin drop policy.
Okay, we have the VFW manager here. And do you want to say a few words?
Mayor, Neiman. I'm the commander of the VFW, Post 20, chairman of your Veterans Advisory Board, commander of District 16, covering Atlantic County from VFW. Presently, with the COVID-19 restrictions, we rent our building now for $550. People are not going to do it when they can only have 10 people in the building. Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
We need these coin drops to survive. We have about $25,000 left. The cost to operate is about $20,000 per year after reducing what expenses we could. This allows for no money for repairs to the building, nor any donations to veterans, or which are part of our mission, or to the community. Even if we get the coin drops, money will be tight without rentals. Our typical income is about $46,000 a year. However, expenses, which includes repairs plus donation to the community veterans, is about $44,000 a year. Last year, we made only $20,000 including money, the one coin drop, and took a $15,000 loss for the year. We allow the Red Cross to use our building for free to collect needed blood. I've dropped off two of their advertisements for January and February, I believe. Scouts use our building for free. The AARP will be using our building this year to aid seniors with their taxes for free. Because we can't charge them, they're not charged. Even with limited income last year, we donated $1,200 to veterans and to the community. Our members help with community cleanup, food pantries, etc. We provide a vital link to veterans about their benefits, provide contacts, and where to go for assistance. We, the VFW, only use our building once a month, and that's for just a meeting. It is also used by the Vietnam Veterans of America, the Buffalo Soldiers, which included their letter to you, and the Fleet Reserve. So last year, they donated over $2,000 to veterans and to the community. Okay. And basically, they get to use our building at an amount that just basically covers utilities. We have long-term rentals, which include Police Unity Tour, a post-traumatic stress disorder group, a seashore dog training class, boat safety class, and Cape Atlantic Integrated Network for Kids, which are presently not meeting because of COVID-19. The community also rents our building because of its size and the amount that we charge, which hasn't been increased in at least 10 years that I know of. Last year, only one of the 3 coin drops were allowed, and for that we wore a mask, gloves, and used a pole with a pitcher attached to maintain proper distance. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank your members for their service. We appreciate that. And I believe, Arch, can you give me a little background on this? I know we had some discussion regarding it. And I believe, didn't we put the dates on the calendar for them?
Yeah, everything is applied to the municipal clerk's office, and in regular process, these are accepted after February 1st. Let me be very clear. No one has been denied anything at this point. It's still in the application process. And what the application process is reviewed by the police chief. The priorities are set by by ordinance, and then the dates are assigned. This is January 19th.
Right.
The applications are due in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks. They're then reviewed. No, like I said, no process has even taken place yet.
So once the application's received, we will get the VFW scheduled for the coin drop. What we will be waiting for at that point is to see where we are with the governor's orders at the time that the coin drop is scheduled for. And that's something that you have to appreciate. I mean, that's something that we have to adhere to the guidelines that the governor sets forth. We're going to schedule the dates for you. You want to add something, Chief? No.
So the executive order, basically what happened was some regulations were left to the municipality to deal with. So the coin drop was one of those regulations that was left to the municipality to decide whether or not they were going to have any. It should be noted that we are one of the few towns that still allow coin drops. So that's a luxury in itself. Due to the spike in COVID this year, we once again are suspending the coin drops on a month-to-month basis. So like I explained to Mr. Judge, if he wanted a coin drop next week or next month, right, I would tell him that it's highly unlikely because of the spike of COVID. So his dates are much further along in the year. I believe they start in May. So the likelihood of us canceling them at that point are probably very slim. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it should be a non-issue, basically, is what it comes down to. So basically, the governor's executive order has put it back on the municipalities to say whether or not the coin drops happen.
So, I mean, within the last few weeks, we've had 366,000 people in the state of New Jersey vaccinated. If that pace and that rollout keeps going, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't be able to happen. But we have to monitor it. I hope you can appreciate that. We just have to monitor it to ensure that it's moving in the right direction. We want you to have this coin drop. We want you to be able to do it. We understand the importance of it. We understand the importance of your membership and what the VFW does. So we're going to make every effort we can to make sure that you get the dates that you select and this happens for you. It's just we can't give you a definitive answer tonight. The application process opens in 2 weeks, and I'm sure you'll get priority on your dates.
It's quintessentially not the coin drop. We're done. I mean, all the veterans groups in this area will be gone. They use our building. They will not have it.
I absolutely, I hear from not only VFW, I hear from all other civic organizations, and we hear from the small businesses too. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to make sure you get the dates that sustain you to keep you moving on.
Even the Veterans Advisory Board, I'm allowing it to be in our building, no charge of that.
One more thing should be noted. Last year, when we did suspend the coin drops, we did facilitate additional dates at the end of the year to make sure that people that did put in for their applications, even though they didn't get their dates that were originally scheduled, we were able to give them dates later on in the year so they were able to do the coin drops. So we will do everything we possibly can to make sure that they get dates.
Okay. And it's obvious that you have an open line to the police department.
He's the guy who came by when he was patrolling, his vehicle sunk in the back of our parking lot, probably due to a tree that'd been there decades prior. He came back on his own volition with his own materials and filled the hole. Great guy.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Go ahead, Judy.
There are several things that that building does for the township at no cost. Can we figure out a stipend for all those events that happen at the veterans and give them some money?
We're not looking for money right now, Judy. If we can make it on our own, we want to do that. I mean, we're veterans, but if we can just, like I say, see our point and if it's possible, allow us to do this, we will continue not only for veterans, but the community. That's what we're here for.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom and Chief.
At this point, I don't believe any formal action needs to be taken. I think the discussion, any other discussion on 3A?
No.
Discussion? We can just move along, right, Mr. Chairman? Number 4, public hearing, adoption of ordinances. We do not have.
You skipped 3B.
I'm sorry,
and
3B, right. Thank you, Rita.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next one is 3B, which is the ordinance, 1945-2021, an ordinance adopting an amendment to the township-wide redevelopment plan for Block 1132.01, Lot 16, in the Township of Hamilton, Lenape County, State of New Jersey. This is referring to the property known as the Clubhouse and Columbia Care, correct, Mr. Administrator?
That's correct.
This is a public hearing on this? No?
The discussion, and if you would like to introduce it,
That's right, public hearing will be second.
that will set the public, if you introduce it tonight, the public hearing will be February 16th. They need a little extra time on this one.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Art, can you hear us? Judy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, I
we
can hear.
you. I don't see I don't see what is that's written here. It's an ordinance of the Township of Hamilton for the easement on a portion of block 865. Is this a separate one that was added?
Now, this is 3B.
Oh, 3B. Okay. All right, let me just, okay. I don't have any papers on it, but sounds good.
Judy? It's
What's
Rita.
that?
It's Rita. It was a late list
Okay.
item, and I did not know you weren't going to be here, so I emailed it to you approximately 6:05 PM, along with the other late list items that would normally be in front of you on the dais.
Okay, I can't go there because I'm using my cell phone right now
I understand completely.
okay, all right.
So if there's
Thank
no
you.
objections, I'd like to
Thank you,
move the
Rita.
ordinance. If there's no objection, I'd like to move the ordinance.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call on this? Or- This is intro. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. So that'll be introduced on February 16th.
Actually,
Okay.
you introduced it tonight, and
Public
we'll have the
hearing on
public
February
hearing
16th. Thank you.
February 16th, yes.
Um,
There's a resolution now that goes with that, number
And
2.
this is the resolution, 3C items. So do we need to move the resolution also?
This resolution just refers the ordinance that you just introduced to planning board so that they can get back to you with their opinion.
So what happens, it goes to planning board does their review of it, and then they decide whether or not they want to send it back to us for approval.
That's why there's an extra 2 weeks before the public hearing.
Make a motion to move resolution.
I second it.
All right, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. So now we can get back to the
You got 3C.
3C. This is a proposed resolution regarding, put on by Mr. Gashard, regarding increasing the green team members from 7 to, what's the total number, Mr. Gashard?
13, I believe.
13, they have them counted out as, you want to give a little background? This is what you're trying to,
Yes, well, the green team is, gets involved in a lot of activities to benefit the township. We have a number of residents that are active in it, and they have something special to offer. Some of the things that are done is we have classes on decayed leaves. What do you call that? The compost, that's right, your compost lessons. We give out bags, we hold films, sessions, for information we get to the school system. And all of these things contribute to the quality of life in the township. We have established a close relationship with the state and with private organizations. But the reason for this is that there's a lot to learn in this. It takes a while. And we have people who are very interested in contributing. So when you have that kind of interest, I think it's advisable for us to take advantage of it.
all right, so to be clear, it's up to 11 regular members and 2 alternates, correct?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, this issue has come up before, and I thought we weren't allowed to increase the number. Bob, do you remember that or no?
Created by ordinance?
Or by resolution?
Resolution.
I don't recall that, Arthur.
I can't hear you, Bob.
I don't recall that coming up in the past, but I'm certainly,
Okay, it might have been something different, but if there's no reason why we can't do it, I'm in favor.
Any other discussion?
Does being a member get you like access to classes? Is that why? I mean, because I'm assuming anybody could attend the meetings that you have, correct?
It's true, but people would like to be recognized for their
Sure.
contributions, so this is what's involved there.
you should be aware, Rodney, well, you're an advisory board. Do you need a quorum to give an advice and consent to the
No, I
board?
don't think so.
No, that's not good.
Yeah, because I see what you're saying. You increase the amount of people, then you
How many
increase
people
the,
need to be
you
there?
need to be there to get anything approved, correct?
But if they're only advisory,
Okay.
that's not,
That's not an issue. I mean, I'm all for people being involved with the town. I really am. So it's,
I mean, I appreciate the work the green team does. I just want to make sure that, that it's coordinated through one individual, when it comes to using township employees to help with, the initiatives. So, I mean, I just don't want, additional people being able to just reach out to our employees and ask questions and ask for things to get done, by increasing the membership list. But,
that's a valid point as well. Reading over this email that went back and forth, it sounds like it's a township employee that wants to get on. Am I reading this correct?
I don't know. I know non-township employees interested in getting on. I didn't know there was a township employee that was. But we do have someone to work with in the township.
Yeah, Luann, out of Public
Right,
Works,
Luann.
is coordinates the functions of the green team.
Right.
you have anything, you want to add, Mr.?
No, I mean, it seems to be working pretty well, and I've stepped back up, and I know that Luann does a good job with coordinating with all the people in the green team. The biggest thing is coordinating meetings now, which have to be done through Zoom until further notice, but it seems to be working well.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think that this is Judy Link speaking. What would be the quorum for each meeting to take place, or doesn't that matter?
We just had, testimony on the record, Ms. Link, that, it does not matter.
Okay. All right. That's good.
with your permission.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So,
I think I drafted the bylaws for this.
I think we should table it until Bob looks at that.
um,
I don't want to do something and then
have to rescind it.
yes.
Yeah. I agree. There is a motion to table, for the solicitor to look into how it was formed, so we make sure you don't cause yourself a situation by adding more members and then not being able to attain a quorum. So, there is a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
I don't think that would be an issue because we have other committees that operate the same way. The VAB, for example, it doesn't require a quorum.
Well, I mean, listen, I believe that the opinion of the committee is this is something we want to do for you, but we want to make sure we do it in the right way. And so one more meeting, is that going to impact your ability to get things done?
No, not substantially.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Ayes have it.
I'll report back at the next meeting.
All right, now we'll move on to the regular. This is introduction of ordinances, public hearing to be held February 1st, 2021. Ordinance number 1942, 2021, an ordinance of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, accepting a right-of-way easement on portion of Block 865, Lot 48, upon which a portion of Columbia Road is constructed. Art, you want to?
Yeah, just real briefly, there was a road that was put in a few years back, and when there was a tax appeal on the property, and when it was reviewed, the survey was reviewed, it was determined that the road had been built on private property. Basically, what we're doing is just buying an easement so we can continue and not have to rip the road up.
It was built many, many years ago, and it came up, as Art says, in the context of a tax appeal, which resulted in a slight reduction of the assessment for the property owner. I disclosed then, and I'll disclose now, that I was involved in the representation of the child of the owners, but that was more than 6 years ago. I do not have a conflict of interest.
Okay.
One of the provisos of the ordinance and one of the things that the owners wanted to be sure of is if they convey the easement to the township, not only will they maintain it, but they would indemnify them for any claims related to the condition of the road once it's owned by us.
Okay.
And that's in the ordinance.
Committee?
I do recommend it.
Move that we pass that.
Okay. Second. Motion and a second. Rita, can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Gishard,
Yes,
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mr. Patali,
Yes.
Mr. Shanker,
Yes.
Mayor Kane.
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Next is 5B, ordinance 1943, 2021, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 2, Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees, increased maximum hourly rate of code staff. So to be clear, we're not increasing headcount, we're discussing salaries.
This is to increase the salaries for lifeguards, any senior lifeguards we may have, and for people who manage and the badge checkers. Obviously with competing communities for lifeguards and other summer staff, we want to raise our rates a little bit so we can be more competitive and also get better qualified personnel and maintain over a longer period of time. We believe this will do that.
Committee?
I have a question. How many hours a week would the co-day manager have and lifeguards? What hours are we looking at, or in each one of those?
Well, it depends on the number of days that we're open, but they usually open 11, work till 6. Same with the manager. About 35 hours a week in the summer.
Are we going to? So are you going to have two go tape managers that overlap each other?
What we're trying to do is we would appoint a senior lifeguard, somebody who's a qualified lifeguard who would oversee. We'd like to see it all the time as the manager and oversee the lifeguards. But if we've got to separate the position, that'll allow us to separate the position to a day manager and still have enough lifeguards.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like a real jump in salaries. So I don't know how much more then are we going to be paying in salaries for a season? Do you have that estimate?
Let me see. We're projecting this year with salaries and expenses. We're talking about $58,000 and when we're talking about expenses, we need to buy bathing suits. We need to buy what was the equipment? We need to buy a new paddle board. So a lot of it just upgrading equipment, but salaries in the range probably about $40,000 to $45,000.
So what percentage is that? increase?
What I have increased here is about a 6% increase or so. But considering some of these haven't been increased, when the last time lifeguards were increased, do we know? Last time lifeguards were increased in salary? What's your-
When the minimum wage
Yeah,
went.
but-
When minimum wage went up, so they've been at minimum wage for a while. So this is taking them up a couple dollars above minimum wage.
as well as the code day manager, that's
Yes.
quite a bit. Okay, if it works and it makes it more safe, that's good.
Anyone else?
Did we have a problem last year with hiring?
Yes.
And hopefully this year we'll make sure people can work until Labor Day?
Well, the problem is with the summer schedules and with kids returning to college, a lot of the colleges return the second or third week in August. And actually, in speaking with other communities, they have the same problem with people leaving, going back to college. So that is an issue. And we try to bump up the hours of the other people. And we try our best, or we can reduce the size of the beach sometimes so we can keep open. But we try the best we can with the college kids.
Because I'm assuming we're going to have a tough time with the budget, and we're going to, I know it's not much, but we're still looking at raising hourly rates for some employees.
Well, I mean, we need to obviously make sure it's staffed properly through Labor Day, I mean, especially if we're doing this. I mean, that's important. Anyone else?
Make a motion to pass ordinance 1942 for 2021.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Rita, can we get a roll call, please? Any other discussion first? Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Bashar?
Yes.
Mrs. Lang?
Yes,
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
Oh, yes, introduced.
Next, we have ordinance 1944, 2021, amending Chapter 225, Article 1 of the Township Code to change fees for the use of the Cove recreational bathing area. Arch, you want to help me out with this one?
Yeah, sure. This is where we are looking to increase the seasonal fees to $25 from $14. This would be any pass purchased. Well, we're going to have early pass sales, just like the Jersey Shore does. So if anybody buying pre-April 30th would pay $25. Post-May 30th, it would be $30. We're putting in a family of 4. They can purchase anytime during the year for $100. We're creating an VIP supporter, which would give people a special medallion, kind of taking pride in the community, but also we give them 2 visitor passes, which is actually a bargain because then they're actually making $5 off the deal, but we're trying to get people to buy in a little bit more. Dailies would be increased from during the week. We would be going from $9 to $10, and weekends and holidays would be from the 9 to the 15.
Committee?
yeah, it looks like you're banking on a 44% increase or 44% increase for the seasonal. And I'm a little concerned that, in view of what we made last year, do you think people are going to be willing to buy this seasonal and increase our revenue?
Well, last year, we utilized the Recreation Trust Account, which was money that we had saved up for summer recreation. So that money was used up and offset the expenses last year. This year, the whole cost will go to the tax rate. So it comes down to, last year, we lost or we're over about $47,000, which the trust account picked up. This year, even if we run the numbers and with a solid year, we're still looking at a loss of $26,000 this summer. So it depends on how much money you want to lose.
Well, I'm just saying that I was looking at last year's rates. For a seasonal pass, it was $15, and now you're putting it up to $25 and $30. I just don't, as a business person, I don't understand this, because are we wanting to have more people there that are paying the expenses? Or are you thinking that this is compared to other beaches that have upped their prices like that? I mean, I think it would be great if you could get that money, but what if you can't?
Then we will find out if we can't generate the revenues, then we're going to have to adjust our price point. But I'll say as a business person, you wouldn't last long, because this year, even with a good year, we're going to absorb $26,000 in cost. So no business could survive with this. Only government could survive absorbing the loss to another way.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Wasn't the code supposed to be a benefit to the community, not a business? That's what I understood was the case years ago when we finally opened the code. The code is to serve the community. So when you're talking like a profit and loss, I think if you're going to put out, a grand 44% increase, you're going to have to advertise it and try to get people interested in this instead of just sitting back and putting it out there. That's my own opinion.
Well, Mrs. Lake, I agree with some of your comments. I mean, this is an introduction, so there will be time to have more discussion on this.
Okay.
And even though it's not a business, any way we can find new ideas and new ways to cut the cost and the exposure to the taxpayer, I think we should try it. And I applaud them going out and researching the fees from other communities to see. I still think it's a bargain when you consider having to drive to the shore, finding down there, and doing things. I believe it's still a bargain, and it is something that sets our community apart. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's well worth it. I'm just saying, what people have been used to and what they haven't, we went to there's only 250 people allowed in there at one time. Maybe you might consider going with Eventbrite so that they would buy tickets in advance.
Well, hopefully, again, as we had the discussion when we were discussing the BFW, hopefully we start to see movement on COVID and we can increase the capacity at the Cove. That would be the best case scenario. So I think this is a great start. And notice to the public, if you have ideas on how unique ideas or any ideas on how to increase revenue at the Cove, we even talked possibly about a concession truck, something of that nature. It is part of our community. We all want to see it open, and it brings people to our town and introduces people to our town, as well as provides relief and fun for the residents.
Yeah, I would definitely see the advantage of having a little, concession there, but it went away a long time ago and was denied quite like 10 years ago. But if that can be done to bring in revenue, I think that would be great.
That's being reviewed. We're looking at process to do that.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Arch, is there any way we can determine how many people that use the Cove are local and how many are not?
We have those numbers.
Yeah. What were the sales last year on dailies? Yeah. I mean, on sales, what was the number of people, residents compared to non-residents?
Sixty forty.
Could you hear that, Art?
No.
All right, 90% of the seasonals are in-town people.
Okay.
Of the dailies, 60% of the people are from out of town. So of the total, we had about 9,500 visitors last year go through there. Of what those numbers, what was the total number of people who were from out of town? Okay, so we'll know next year, but we know that the dailies are, a majority are from out of town on dailies. That's why we're.
All right, can we take a look at them for a minute? 60% were out of town, 40% in town.
For daily.
But, yeah, for the daily. But yet we rely on their revenue from out of town to keep us solid.
Yes.
Okay. Don't discount those people out of town because they also contribute to our success there.
I think we made those comments, Ms. Link. I mean, we absolutely believe that influx from individuals coming out of town does help obviously support the Cove and introduces our town to 60% of the people attending there daily, and I think that's a great thing. And
I also think it's a great thing because it exposes our community to other people who may be interested in settling in our community. That's another point. That's what I like to make.
Mrs. Blake, no one said it was a bad thing. It was just a question.
Okay.
So, I mean, Arch, I think there's the number of people going through there, Arch, that is a great opportunity for concession or a food trip.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're looking at. The biggest thing is it's going to take up parking spaces. And then I know there was some problem before with insurances for the concession. So, I mean, and we have to do a bid for a concession. And there's, so it may be we do a Saturday, Sunday holiday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending, do a part-time. It may not be worth it to the concession to come during the week, though. And that's kind of the numbers we're evaluating right now.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
How do these numbers compare to like Egg Harbor Lake? Do we know what Egg Harbor Lake was?
We have that data, right, for comparison? We'll get it to you.
Is it comparable? Are we in the ballpark, or are we?
No, we're a little high, but also with the losses that we're having,
Sure.
like everyone else. I mean, it's a budget impact item. We're trying to make it up through fees.
Okay.
But let's not forget that we're convenient. I mean, where we're located, where it's located, it's convenient. So.
Well, last year was obviously because of COVID was a real anomaly in the sense that we had increased costs because we had to have the police there with the separation issues and all that. The second issue that we had was a lot of other lakes, state lakes were closed, like Atzine was closed down, Oswego, these different places were not open. So we got a lot of people coming here that would normally have gone to another lake or gone to their swim club that was closed down. So we did have a substantial increase that way. But we also had a case where with the 250, sometimes we let it go over, people were in the water. So there was some flexibility with the supervision with that, trying to get more people in. So if COVID does end, I mean, our numbers we hope our numbers will increase, but we may also have a decrease with other clubs opening up or other lakes opening up. So it's a real unknown this summer of what will generate out of the place.
Okay.
I'm just
that
concerned.
sounds reasonable.
You see that?
Give it a shot.
Go ahead, Judy.
Yeah, just give it a shot. See what happens. Maybe people will feel as though we are worth going. The increase in prices are justified, and they love our place, and that's it. So I think sometimes you can charge a little less than what is expected, and you can charge a little more when people really value your facility. So it's sort of a push and shove, but let's see what happens.
And my concern, one of my concerns is, I'm sure a lot of the out-of-towners, and Lisa, you could probably attest to this, you were there, and living down the street, I see what goes on. There's a lot of family get-togethers, and probably more this past year than ever before. And now you get a family of 20 people, and you tell them it's $14. I think that's gonna be a big hit, and
But the kids
I'm
are-
afraid we're gonna lose some of
the
that.
kids are
But it
free.
is what it is.
The kids are free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
it's concerning, but you know, it's if you wanted, it's everything costs money. Life's not free.
Yeah.
Any other
It's
discussion?
no more than what your normal beaches are charging today. Ocean City, others.
Yeah,
You
but
can go
we're
to the
not
beach
Ocean
and pay
City.
more.
We're not Ocean City. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna,
Judy, I'm sorry. It's still a
Let him-
body of water, is it not? Is the lake not similar to an ocean? People go there to swim. If the beaches are all
yeah, but-
charging $25, it's no cheaper to go there.
no, the thing is, it is lake water. People do not always appreciate lake water. I've been there for like many, many years with Lake Lenape.
That's right, Judy. You're an expert on the lake.
So I'm
Let's
just
move on.
saying the push and the shove. Hey, I think it's a great idea, and I hope we can make those prices stick, and that people take that advantage of having but I say advertise it. That put a wonderful get the best thing in South Jersey at the Cove. Only $25 for a season per person. I don't know. That I've always felt that when we have such a wonderful asset, we don't advertise it as much as it could be. And you can go on Facebook and say how wonderful it is and give pictures. Just get it out there and get people investing in it. They have money to spend now, so I think for the most part. And if they think it's a good
Make a motion to move
thing,
ordinance 1944.
There was a motion.
Do we have a motion?
Art Schenker.
Second? Anybody?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Read a roll call, please.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes, but with the possibility of revisiting it. Yeah.
Mr. Batali?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
I always appreciate spirited discussion. Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Okay, next we have the consent agenda. And
I make a motion to move A through F.
there's a motion.
I have a little conflict here. I know very well the Arquetto construction, so that's D. I should, abstain for that. They did work for us during the pandemic.
Would you amend your motion?
Yeah, I'll amend my motion. We'll go A through C, A, B, C, E, F.
Okay.
Motion
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, can we get a motion on 7D?
I make a motion to move
So
7D.
moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Aye.
4 ayes, 1
Abstain.
abstention. The ayes have it.
Okay.
Next, we move on to personnel. A, resolution rescinding Resolution 2021-0023, a resolution appointing Charles Kane as a Class 3 member of the Hamilton Township Planning Board. This is quite simply, I cannot sit in that position on the planning board.
Second.
So,
Second.
is there,
So moved.
Second.
I'll make the motion.
okay, second motion. We should roll
That's
call.
what I thought.
We should, yeah. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
We're voting on A?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, resolution appointing a Class 3 member of Hamilton Township Planning Board for a one-year term effective 1/1/21 to 12/31/21. This must be a member of the Township Committee.
Nominate Carl Talley.
I'll second it. We have a motion and a second. Rita, could you give a roll call, please?
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Now we have the addition of C, Mayor's Planning Board appointments. This is to fill the alternate 1 position, and I'll name Marietta Borkowski. And then we also have the alternate 2 position, and I will appoint Peter D'Amico. Next, we have 9 approvals, minutes, reorganization, regular meeting minutes of January 4th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. B, bill list total $5,972,801.48.
So moved.
There's a motion?
Second.
Roll call on this?
Second.
Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Administrator?
Just for, I need authorization from the Township Committee regarding an issue that has come up with the Historic Preservation Commission. There is a request for a property owner to be removed from a pocket site or a landmark site. And the complexity of the issues are such that the HPC is requesting legal counsel so the legal counsel can review the matter and give advice on how to proceed. Since we've reached out to other sources and we really do need some type of legal advice on this. I've consulted with Mr. Sandman regarding this. And what we'd like to do is be able to reach out and do a search for someone who's familiar with HPCs, has experience with HPCs, and come back at the next meeting with a recommendation to make a professional appointment for a limited dollar amount so we can bring this person in to assist the HPC in proceeding with this matter.
Mr. Sandman?
I have pulled the available choices. I've made a recommendation. And I support what the administrator just supported.
We need to do a straw vote, or we need to?
You can do it administratively.
I do, Administrator. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be proceeding with that, and I think it's the most prudent process to take.
I appreciate that, Arch. Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Mr. Solicitor?
As always, I'm pleased to announce I have nothing to report.
That's always good, actually.
It is. Isn't it?
Mr. Engineer?
Mayor Committee, I just have a few items. My first item is I just want to talk about Lake Lenape Dam. We've scheduled monthly meetings with the county. They will occur on the fourth Monday of each month. Just a couple updates on the dam. Brett Knoll had requested some elevations from WSP. Those elevations were completed. We're still waiting for copies of those. And the reason for those elevations, it's the elevations taken before any, from a couple of years ago to see what's happening now, to see if there's any settlement. A couple other things that have occurred are WSP, the design consultant, has submitted the plans to Pinelands and NJDEP, the conceptual plan. So that's finally moving ahead. So Monday we'll have a full update on where we are with the project on the dam from the county. Moving over to the Cotton Mill Bridge, I keep reporting that the project is on schedule. What would help the project, there's two facets that could move the project ahead of schedule. The first is the weather. If the weather continues like it is, that's going to help us move that schedule to completion earlier. The second part of this are the utilities. There's 6 utilities that go, 3 utilities go through the bridge, 3 go overhead. If the utility companies cooperate, I don't want to jinx us, but there's a good chance we could be, the bridge could be open maybe this summer. So
Would they not be able, if the bridge was done and they had to move the utilities, you couldn't open the bridge without, because the utilities are over on the utility bridge.
the temporary utility bridge carries all 6 utilities.
Right.
Within the bridge, the new bridge, there's going to be 3 within the bridge and 3 overhead.
Oh, so the utilities are going to go in before the bridges.
Correct.
I got you.
Correct.
Understood.
So we'll stay with it. I talk to the county often about this. We'll stay with it. We're hoping, and I don't want to jinx us, but we're hoping by Memorial Weekend, this bridge could be
Wow,
operational.
that would be fantastic.
That's the goal. That's my goal. That's their goal. That's everybody's goal. So we need the weather. We need
Knock on wood.
utilities. Right there.
If they meet that timeline, that means you save a lot of salt too.
And hours,
Yes.
working hours for the, whatever. Okay.
The next thing I want to report on is Carl had asked me a couple of weeks ago, Route 322, there's a paving contract. If you've been out there, I'm sure we have, on 322. South State Contractors have a $17 million contract with the state of New Jersey to repave from Route 50 to Route 40. It's 4.2 miles. Their contract was to mill and to pave. They milled the first 2 inches. Milled the first 4 inches, replaced it with 2 inches of stab base, and the final 2 inches will be placed in the spring or the summer. Their contract expires, the completion date is September. So there was a situation out there where if you crossed over Cologne Avenue, if you happen to be on 322 and tried to get into Acme or Walmart, you would hit at least a 2-inch lip, very abrupt lip. So
Yes.
Brett and I scheduled a meeting with the contractor and the DOT resident engineer last Wednesday, and after a lot of conversations and some phone calls, we were able to get state contractors an extra to be paid by the state of New Jersey to mill every one of those interfaces where 322 interfaces Cologne Avenue or a driveway, and they started work on Friday. They're supposed to be finished tomorrow. I've been out there. Brett's checked it out. It seems to be working. So we at Carl's strong suggestion, we got involved and we hopefully corrected a problem.
Thank you.
Sure. And the last thing I have to report on is I reported in my report that Atlantic Avenue contracts are being signed. It was a small error made on the insurance that was picked up by our new CFO. That's being corrected this morning, and once that's finally reviewed, Atlantic Avenue contracts will be signed. As soon as the weather breaks, we'll have South State out there installing the curbing at the intersection, some sidewalk replacement, and we'll be paving Atlantic. And that's from the jail to the post office.
Fantastic.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Let's keep it that way, right? Township committee members, we'll start with you, Mrs. Link.
Yeah, I was, sort of curious about 3rd Avenue. I noticed that the MUA has torn up the 3rd Avenue just like they did Park. And now, are they going to be responsible for paying for part of that renewal, that road to be paved and whatever we have to do with it? Are they going to be somewhat responsible? and pay some money into that? I'm asking the question. I don't know.
Here's, from my side on Third Avenue, we received a $315,000 DOT grant to reconstruct from Shaner School to Lenape Avenue.
Okay.
And that includes some drainage work. I know the MUA has water main replacement occurring there. I don't know the details. I could find out, Judy. I could inquire with the MUA.
Yeah, they just tore it up, just like they did the park.
I will take a look
Okay,
at it.
that would be good if you can inquire about that, because they say they're going to restore it the way they found it, but they didn't find it that way. You know, so I don't know whether that grant will cover everything for Third, but I think that MUA should take responsibility also. That's my. Can you please look into that?
We'll look at it tomorrow morning, and I will report back to committee on that.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Tally?
Let's see. On Saturday, we had a fire at Sandpiper, and I believe it was Mays Landing, Cologne, Laureldale were all toned out at the same time for a working structure fire. When Mays Landing arrived, there was smoke coming out of the building. They went in to attack. They got inside. They breached the door. Did a search, and one victim whom they pulled out of the fire. And
Oh, wow.
that person was taken to Atlantic City, I believe, and then I think they might have been transferred somewhere else. Nonetheless, that person was saved. These guys saved somebody's life. And to think on Saturday afternoon at about 3:30 in the afternoon, I believe it was, 4 o'clock, there were a bunch of people, doing stuff around their house, might have been at work, shopping with their family or something, and their tone went off, and they went to a fire call, and they saved somebody's life, and they volunteer their time for that. And I think that's big kudos to those men and women. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave anybody out like that. And big thank you to all the other departments that covered for us. I believe it was Bargaintown. Not sure who else I saw, but nonetheless, all of them, the rescue squad, the police department, Public Works, I think, had to go out there to help out, I believe. Just a big thank you to all of them. It's huge. That's really huge when you really sit down and think about it. They saved somebody's life. So big kudos to them. Another thing, if you've been around town a little bit, you might see these, they're calling them little libraries. There's one on Acorn Terrace. There's one on Hickory Street. And I think there's one on Calhoun Street now. Helen and Vic Hudson, who were teachers here in town. Mr. Hudson, I call him Woody because he was our woodshop teacher. He builds them. And Mrs. Hudson, who I think was my 3rd grade teacher, because my mind is kind of, I'm losing things going back.
You shouldn't say that.
Man. She was my 3rd grade teacher. She stocks it with books. And so take a look. It's the one on Acorn Terrace, I know, is brightly colored. And there's some books in there, and it's a little library. Go in there, check it out. It's a really cool thing for the town. And actually, there used to be one on Leipzig Avenue for many years, I remember. And I believe the person who took care of that had passed away, and there was nobody to pick up where that one left off. But that's just a really cool thing that's going on in our town. So I just wanted to bring that up. And so keep an eye out for it. And I do believe they are looking for other locations for little libraries. So you might see one on Lake Drive at some point.
Is that strictly volunteer?
What's that?
Is that strictly volunteer?
Yes, volunteer. So, and that's all I have to say. Just everybody be safe. COVID's still out there. Be safe. Wash your hands. And Reagan, Maddie, miss you. Love you. Hope to see you soon.
They're a great family, and I don't want to mention what year she taught me. Mr. Sharp?
Yes, a few days ago, I was happy to hear that the vaccine is going to be available to, is going to be opened up and available to most people. So my wife went down and signed up for myself and her, and they said they would call within 24 hours. That was days ago. We have one person that, that was the family centers, family medical centers. They were going to provide those vaccines. The state of New Jersey also claimed that the vaccine was available, but the person I knew who applied with them, they said they would get back to them in 24 hours, and that was a week ago. So I don't know what's going to happen with this. I guess it's getting closer to our getting it, but it seems like there are all kinds of problems still. You can look it up on the internet, I'm sure, and find out how you can get an appointment. That's all.
All right, thank you. Art, you have any comments?
No, I don't have any comments tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would just like to reiterate what Carl said. Seeing, I mean, these are volunteers. The amazing job they did. It's just, as he said, we're out doing our everyday lives, and they're out saving lives, and really appreciate their volunteerism and all those that support them. We received a letter from Ken Mosca from Atlantic City Electric. I know a lot of people are going through very hard times. He posted a number on there, 800-642-3780, or AtlanticCityElectric.com/help. For any residents that are struggling with their utility bills, their electric bill, they have various plans that you can reach out to them. They're really reaching out in the community trying to help people in these very difficult times. So I think that's something worthy, Mr. Administrator, posting on our website, that contact information so that residents have it. So it was very nice of them to reach out to us to let us know so that we could pass it on to our residents. I was actually surprised to hear that the Hamilton Township Police Department hired a 2-year-old female. I was a little confused when I first got the information, but that 2-year-old female would happen to be a bloodhound by the name of Sky. And I think that picture of Sky's worth posting on your website, Chief. And it's important to note that that Sky came to us through donations. The program, the K9 program, is supported through donations, and we do have a new 2-year-old female addition to our police department. So look forward to seeing her out and about in the community. And so I just wanted to mention that. Other than that, that's all I have. Wish everybody well, and as Mr. Gershard said, hopefully these vaccines keep coming out for those that want to take them. I think 366,000 in just a few weeks is moving in the right direction, and hopefully that gets accelerated rapidly through the first quarter of the year here. So with that, we'll open up the public comment. For anyone wishing to speak, you'll have to unmute yourself or raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, it's John Applegate.
Yes, Mr. Applegate.
Hi, I was very happy to hear Mr. Liston's comments earlier in his report. I'm looking, I couldn't quite hear it all online. I'd like for it to be repeated, please, and if I could have a detailed timeline as to the process here.
I don't have a problem, Mr. Liston, repeating what he said, what was said. I mean, we researched council for this particular matter. It's unique. As you may well be aware, this is the first time that we're being presented with this. So what was done tonight is giving him permission to seek out that counsel. We received several recommendations from our solicitor on who to use, and bring back a budget for that solicitor to research the situation.
Okay, so there's a budget that's going to be given to council, and then they'll make a decision, and then from there, it sounds like it's going to be a month before a decision's made. Is that correct?
No, it will be presented on the next meeting. There'll be a resolution provided to the committee to appoint an individual, along with a dollar limit that the committee would authorize to spend on the issue, at least at this point.
Okay, very fair. Thank you for that answer. So that it's going to be 4 weeks to an answer. Now, back on December 7th, Mayor Schenker said, quote, "The township is going to hire legal counsel to render their opinion." So I'm 5 weeks later, and I'm getting the same answer here. I'm just wondering what happened between that comment and today comments.
I was that counselor. I was approached, and I started my research with respect to the issue. It involves state agencies. It's not an easy issue. It's a complicated issue. And I determined to give our administrator the advice that he got, and that is to hire someone that is familiar with these statutes, familiar with the process, and has been involved in a community which is very historic and has a lot of experience. That was probably a week and a half ago. This was the first meeting since that time. Arch has put it on for discussion. You've approved the search. And I would think, sir, that by the next meeting, the name that has come up, or the names that have come up, will yield a very qualified, competent counsel. And at that point in time, you'll have to follow his lead. So I determined that it was not something that was within my practice, made that known to the administration, and that's what got us here tonight.
Okay, yep, very, very fair. It just seems back in 2015 when you spoke in reference to this ordinance that everything was in there, and that, you know, there didn't need to be any further attorney's review or anything. And so this is just getting drug out here. I applied in August. I applied again in November. I'm just not confident that something's going to happen. I'm a little more confident today, right now, than I was earlier. But very, very disappointed. I put in an application to HPC. I was told it was in there. I put in a legal document, an application in. And somewhere, and I got told by the secretary of the of HPC that they had it and they were going to review it. And then the meeting happened and nothing happened. So I just have some concerns with internally things going on that aren't according to our ordinance. I just wanted to state that, that's all.
You have made that point well known. You're going to have the opportunity, should the Township Committee agree, to converse with a very skilled counsel in that regard. And I'm very confident that if that person is selected, will provide you with timely and correct advice.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate those comments, and thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else in the public wish to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, George Fye, 6004 Dannenhauer Lane. I'm going to start, I guess, and stick on this HPC issue. You may as well add my office as a pocket site that wants to be removed. I sell the most real estate in Mays Landing. I have for the past at least 10 years. My wife 10 years before that. My in-laws 30 years before that. It is not, it's a detriment to be labeled a pocket site. It's just, it is ridiculous. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The HBC is an advisory board. Am I wrong?
I'm sorry. That's correct, Mr. Fye.
So you're telling me we're going to have taxpayers have to pay for an attorney because of, I mean, I don't want to say incompetent, but a ridiculous advisory board. I think the taxpayers need to know. I think this is ridiculous, guys. And I can also say, if Arch could send me a copy of that infamous letter that the HPC sent out to all the pocket sites, because I can tell you right now, 5467 Harding Highway did not get a letter. This is ridiculous, guys. Look, I don't come here and complain too often, right? It just so happens the last time I was in front of this board, I complained about the last historic ordinance that the previous committee passed. It was dumb then. It's proven to be useless. There's been nothing good to come out of that ordinance. Nothing. So I think, you know, in the age of social media, I think the taxpayers need to understand that this is, it's embarrassing. Being this is my hometown and I do business in it's embarrassing that we do this. And I don't think the taxpayers should have to foot the bill for an advisory board. You know, look, it's great business for me. I just had a new client sign the other day because of a discrepancy they had with Historic. They're leaving. I listed it. I'm going to make some money off of it. Guys, if you want to know how the town's doing, ask the realtor that sells the most. Okay? So that gets that started. The other thing is the planning boards, the zoning boards. I'd like you guys to take a look at the processes. Now, obviously, you guys know my opinion of this 40 Pennington. And it's an embarrassment. Thank goodness this investor, who will never buy in Hamilton Township again, is still using me to purchase investments in other municipalities. Something's got to give, guys. We got to get more. You know, I gave this 40 Pennington, and all of you know, or most of you know, I warned you this was going to be an issue. I warned all you guys. Arch, I thought Arch was going to be the savior. I sat down with Arch, and when I explained it to him, he agreed how ridiculous it was. Then he flip-flops, and now he's just, well, whatever the local board and the attorney said.
The law is the law.
Where I thought Arch was going to be a savior,
George,
it's not happening.
The law is going to be followed, Mr. Mayor.
Listen, can I finish? Because I'm sure you guys will have the last say with this, okay? I'm sure you guys will have the last say. Charlie, you were involved on the planning board when I did the Sunshine Park. That subdivision didn't have any variances because it was in CAFRA. However, an incompetent attorney, Republican appointed attorney, and an incompetent Republican appointed engineer screwed me on that. It was pushed 3 meetings that does nothing but cost money. You guys don't get that. The boards don't get that. Unless you sat in that applicant seat, you don't get what it costs for these meetings to be pushed. You still got to pay the attorney another week or two. You got to pay the engineer another week or two. Then you get the call from town hall. Hey, our township engineer needs to review the same exact paperwork he reviewed the last meeting. Guys, it's getting to the point, you know, it's a social media world. I think the public needs to they need to hear some of these stories and you know, they vote for you guys. You guys are voted in. And then these boards, I think something's got to change. And I hate coming here public. I try to talk to you guys one-on-one. Nothing gets done.
George, you raised a couple issues. First, the pocket site. Arch, the letter that was sent out to the owners in the pocket sites, that I assume would be a matter of public record?
Yes, it was,
So could
we
we-
have documentation that it was sent out in 2018, and we have a list of the people it was sent out to.
Could we make a copy of that available to Mr. Fye to pick up?
Certainly.
All right, George, to address that first. Second of all, I did sit in on that application, and I don't recall the circumstances of why it went multiple meetings. But, again, the planning board and zoning boards are volunteers. They're individuals that are volunteering their time to do the best they can for the township. And as you see, or you may not be aware, excuse me for 1 second, we just asked for volunteers for those boards for positions that were open. There were literally 3 applications. So, right now, I think you have the best options sitting on those boards doing the best they can for the township. Can we always improve the process? Of course we can. And I think that we've been trying to do that, through the years. I think things are a little different now than it was when your application came before us. And I can tell you firsthand from the planning board, being a member there on that board for a very long time, we're doing everything we can on that board to work with developers and get their applications approved as quickly as possible while protecting the township's interests. So if you have names of individuals that want to volunteer for these boards, I'd be more than happy to have you contact Rita. She'll get you the application and get them to apply. That's the only way that some of these things get fixed. So I appreciate your comments. I'll take them under advisement. I'll bring them back to the planning board on your behalf, and we'll continue to do the best we can.
Yeah, Charlie, just real quick, I want to be clear about this. This isn't a knock on the boards. I actually respect the people on those boards. My personal opinion with what I went through was, and you were on there, Rosenberg, as much as John Rosenberg is great for a party, him and the engineer cost me over $12,000 from pushing that thing 3 times. Nothing has changed when I see this 44 Pennington. Nothing has changed, guys.
George, with all due respect, I watched the planning board get through a several 100-page application on behalf of the Hamilton Mall, unprecedented in one evening. So I can tell you, that was with the assistance of the planning board engineer, the planner, and the solicitor. So, we are doing things as efficiently as we possibly can. And those individuals that were there when your application came before us are not the same individuals. And I assure you we're doing everything we can to, again, be as gentle on the applicant as we can, but make sure that we follow the law and get the most for the township.
May I?
Yes, of course.
George, I know that you were not referring to me when you talked about a Republican-appointed incompetent attorney. But
No. When I did my application, I'm guessing that's Bob. I don't really know who's talking. That was referring to my application.
before
You
the
weren't the attorney.
That's right. I take personal offense that you would say that about John Rosenberger, who has more integrity than most men I've ever met in my life. But you're entitled to your opinion. What I want to say is this. Since I've been back here, particularly working with Steve Philippone and Kevin Dixon, we have gone out of our way, absolutely out of our way, to be user-friendly, to help the developers, to bend when we can bend, to give advice to bend when we can do it legally. And from an engineering point of view, that as well. I worked with Kevin this week on a big project where we were willing to do things just to get it done because it was going to put 3 new houses on the rateable taxes right away. I can't speak to the boards, but I can speak for my law firm, and I can speak for Steve's firm, and I can speak for Kevin's firm. And in the last 5 years, I promise you, we have gone out of our way to do everything to make it least expensive and more rapid for every developer, every small business, every single-family home, anybody who wants to put a fence up. So you may have a bad experience there, but believe me, that's not what's happening township-wide.
Again, I'm going to say that was my experience back when Charlie was on that board. I think nothing but high stuff about Steve Filippone. I think we're lucky to have Steve Filippone. And it's nothing against you, Bob. You weren't on that committee.
George, I appreciate your comments. Anything else?
That's it. That's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak?
Move to close.
If so, please unmute yourself or raise your hand. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, close public comment.
Second.
Motion
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, I will, are we going to be coming back out of executive session?
Bob, we need to come back out? Yes, we do.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to public, to executive session, where we will reconvene in public afterwards. Okay.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, MISPA, Fire Department, Attorney-Client Privilege, Police Retirement, Personnel. Be it further resolved that the governing body will reconvene in public session to confirm the results of the executive session. Be it further resolved that the results of this executive session shall be made known as soon as the basis for confidentiality is no longer confidential.
Out of executive session, Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, back to the regular meeting.
I just would report that the time now is, looks like 20 of 9, that the only matters that were discussed in the executive session is those that were published on the notice and the agenda, the minutes of which will be made available, at which time the confidential nature of those matters is no longer confidential.
All right, at this time, I'll read a resolution, Township of Hamilton Resolution 2021-. Whereas the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, and State of New Jersey is desirous of negotiating with the MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc., as it relates to possibly reestablishing a fire station within the MISPA section of the township. And whereas the MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc. owns land and buildings within the MISPA section of the township, which may be suitable for the reestablishment of a fire company. And whereas it is in the best interest of the public of the Township of Hamilton that MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc. be represented by counsel. And whereas it is anticipated that the MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc. will select counsel of its choice to represent their interest in negotiating with the administration and solicitor for the Township of Hamilton. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that the Township shall pay necessary and reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred by the MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc. in the pursuit of negotiating a possible transaction as it relates to the efforts to locate a fire department and/or other services in the MISPA section of Hamilton Township. Said hourly rate for attorney chosen by the MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc. shall be $140 an hour plus any reasonable and related cost incurred by the attorney selected by the MISPA Volunteer Fire Company, Inc., solely and only as it relates to negotiations as set forth herein above. Committee?
My sheet says $145 an hour.
It is $145 an hour.
That one. I just want to make sure.
I was trying to save a few.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Gishard,
yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mr. Vitale,
Yes.
Mr. Schenker,
Yes.
Mayor Kane.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
I make that motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
The second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Have it. Adjourn.